Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sarasota, Florida, once again.
Always makes me feel like an Inca when we get these strange offerings on the table.
From what I hear, there's still about 20 to 25 people who are stuck at airports, on this side of the Atlantic at least, and they should be here by morning, we're hoping. Well, it's kind of funny how things like that work out, because I still don't even have the title other than it's Sliders 7 Advanced Mind Training, right? Because it's on security clearance, because something is going down ever since that accident, that happened in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah. Just before we came down, the Beloveds gave me a bit of information on what might this workshop be about, besides the obvious in the title that we've had for 2 years, knowing that it was going to be the advanced mental body training. And they've said some interesting things. There's some interesting things that it has to do with tomorrow night, because tomorrow night is the night that we have the permits to go on the beach from about 8 to 11 p.m. So it's the evening session, and it's not for drumming, because it would be too noisy and you won't get permits for drumming at those hours. But we're going to do a large Chandra shield. They haven't released what exactly this is about, and this is what the security clearance is about. But in going in with that is the training that they've been nudging me that they were going to begin, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding. Why that? Why now? Not yet. Nobody's ready for that yet. They're going to introduce mirror training. Mirror training is a whole set of technologies, and actually moving closer to the adept type of material as far as skills developed and those kind of things. It is usually only used after several other types of training are given first. We've been training a lot in Jade projection and bilocation, all of those things. But there's a couple other things that usually come before the mirror training. Mirror training has many levels to it, so it'll be the introductory level. But all of the mirror training has to do with something quite fascinating. They're going to teach us how to begin, and to begin now, creating the internal communications network of the Christ, in the event that if at any time the external communication networks go down, people can't call anybody, they can't get to workshops, the internet's out or whatever, where we will be able to communicate with the guardian groups, but also with each other, and start attending these workshops in other planes with them. They're going to introduce a couple of groups of the guardians that work over in the Aurora Earth sector, and they've given 2 of the names of the groups. One are the Shiva, and the others are the Hewa, and there's 4 other Was, they said. So they're going to introduce us to these guys. And they don't just work in the Aurora Earth area. They work from there and also on up in all of the other lives, especially the last 2 weeks, and especially the last week. I've been watching wackiness build and build and build. How many people have had just a seemingly normal month? Nobody? Nobody's hands go up? Okay. How many people have had an unseemingly wacky 2-week period? Okay, more than half. And how many for the last week period it was even worse or amplified or wackier than that? Okay, so it's not just us. God. We've had this started really with when they asked us to do the final move to the Sarasota house that we finally got, and we bought that house in March, on March 5th. And as the Beloveds put it, it was a diamond in the rough. They weren't kidding rough. It was really, I'll tell you a little bit about our house before I tell you about the beginning of our week, just so you compare if your life has been that wacky this week too. It's really a lovely house, but it needed massive interior renovations before it was livable. It's a house that used to be just like a little ranch house, and it had like the outdoor pool like most houses do in Florida. Well, whoever owned it before actually put the outdoor pool inside by building part of the house around it and then opening it up to all of the other rooms in the house. So you had a pool and open arched doorways with no glass in them, no nothing, just pool in the middle of what might have been a living room kind of thing. And, well, when you looked in the pool, the first thing you saw was this, like, big gray black stain. Right? And you're going to go, ew, right? And then when the furniture after we bought it, was saying, okay, we can fix this up. And the beloveds are saying, this is why we want the house. It's an aquifer. You think pool, we think aquifer. Because they want to use this for the next level of the aquatone training and everything. So that is why they guided us there. And it was really funny. It was one of the lesser expensive houses that they've had us, purchase. And it was because its apparently greatest asset was really its greatest liability. Because when the people moved out and we hadn't moved furniture in yet, we renovated for 2 months before we even could move in. And we were up there like painting and things like that. And I started having like almost asthma attacks again. And, what is wrong with me up here? I'm reacting to something. You could tell in the carpets in some of the rooms that were closest to the pool room, because they used to be taupe gray colored. And when we walked in and bought the house where there was still some furniture sitting on them, they were actually cream colored. It had chlorine gas running through the whole house, right? So basically, probably could have killed us. I don't know how these people lived with it for 15 years. I guess they were all right. But even just being in it, staying like 3 or 4 days, it was making me sick. So we had to, and believe me, it's not inexpensive to fix pools. Sometimes it's easier to just fill them in and forget they were there, but the beloveds wanted the aquifer. It didn't change the fact, too, that the beloveds also insisted within the first couple of weeks, the first thing that had to be done was the tree guard had to be put up, because there were like hardly any trees on the lot. It's 5 acres, and there was hardly any trees on it, just a few like clusters here and there and some in the backyard, but they wanted a whole tree border. So they said, before you do anything, do the trees. So Bless and Mason planted like 90 trees and shrubs the first week and a half. Right, so then it was the pool project. Then there was so much to do in this house. It was just like intense. I wanted to let you know about the interior aquifer because it has to do with the wacky story of how our week started. Right, now we've been going for 2 months, and since the last workshop, working right through that, and then doing almost every night all-nighters of anything from packing, unpacking, to painting, to this place had. You know how frequency is important, and the beloveds always stress as soon as we go into a place, we have to make adjustments physically if there's something wrong with the with layout. But we also have to adjust color instantly, like immediately. That's one of the first things. Well, this lovely house, bless it, had that whole huge room that used to be outside that was now inside, that held the pool, was all red brick. Did you ever try to put pastels with red brick? Ew, right? Not to mention the frequency coming off this old red brick that used to be on the outside of the house but was now on the inside was a bit intense. So. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the one bedroom had like dark, not quite mahogany colored paneling walls. Real wood though, but like paneling walls. There was so much work that had to be done. Even though we hired contractors to do the big stuff and even to do the painting most of it this time because there was just too much of it. But I did the bricks, right? There was that, and there was one fireplace in Nason's office, and there was a whole wall in the bedroom that was all the red brick stuff. Brick by brick. Beloveds wanted to save the character of the brick, but put a screen on it. So I had to glaze each one with, where you whitewash it and then rag it and oh my God. So it was like, this was a nightmare project. It's been worth it. And Ason's like tiled stuff and everything, because it's basically a 1972 ranch. And pretty much showed it. Well, it's pretty much, we're in 1972 here. So we've had to, finally, and been totally exhausted, we finally move in on April 30th. All the contractor work's supposed to be done by April 29th. Yeah, right. Well, we had to have doors built and stuff to, like glass and wood doors for those big gaping archways that just led into every room, because we'll have cats drowning in the pool and all sorts of wacky stuff. Well, there was still no glass in the doors by the time we moved in and all that. And then there was piles of boxes everywhere. And they wanted this all done before the workshop, right? Because they're activating the site and they wanted the frequencies brought up to where it has to be. So we've just been working. And finally, just about everything is done as this week starts, right? And that was with a few things that you didn't expect, like nobody emptied the septic system in 5 years, I guess. And it started to belch over things, so that had to be handled as an extra. Once we got in, you find out those problems, right? And there was something with a nice black flame pattern up in the panel that controlled the electrical for the air conditioning and stuff like that. So of course that had to be fixed. The washer is still broken, so we haven't done laundry in about a month. I mean, this is one of those periods. So finally everything, the washer's actually going to be fixed by the time we get home. So I think they just fixed it today. Yeah, they fixed it today, right? So we didn't get to use it yet, but they just fixed it. So at the beginning of the week it was like, we're almost done. And still they're going, you're going to give me a line? Because this stops. When the line comes, they said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll give you a line when it's ready. We're on security clearance, just so you know. I was like, oh, okay. Not one of those. So I was like, okay, everything's good. And it's like, my daughter Zahn and her family were still living in Pine Island, and I was not going to be, feel comfortable or relaxed until she was safely tucked into Sarasota too. They're going to be living there's a barn on the property that we bought, and once we can afford to do it, we're going to convert it into, and hopefully by the end of next year, we'll convert it into a guest house where her and her family, can live, so she's tucked in safely. And so we haven't even started that project, so her and her family and a roommate were going to get an apartment up here. So they finally found an apartment, and she's like, yeah, Mom, we got an apartment, we're moving up Saturday. And they had all their stuff in the U-Haul, and they moved up and tucked into the apartment. By Monday, get this call, Mom, yeah, roommate's really, really sick. There's mold in the house. She's going to the emergency care unit, right? She's there with a 5-month-old baby. Zana's here with a 5-month-old baby, our granddaughter. And I was like, oh my God. And sure enough, it's toxic mold-like poisoning that she was having. So immediately they had to all get out of the house. And the landlord was nice enough to give them the money back and get their furniture out for them and put it back in the U-Haul truck. So of course the furniture went into storage, and the people came to our house, of course. And of course, we have one guest room, and that was already promised to my other daughter, Spree, who was coming in from Georgia, right? So it's like, okay, we got full house. It was 2 days before. And right before that, a wacky thing happened. And I started to realize, after the attack of the poison mold at their house, and like just the wackiness that's been happening, what happened earlier that week, and I think it was Monday, it was either Sunday or Monday, but we had a brief like a storm, electrical storm, thunder and lightning, that kind of stuff, which is common around here. And there's a lot of lightning in the Sarasota area. There used to be rumors it's like, lightning capital of the world or something like that. There's a lot of lightning storms. Never bothered us before. Well, in our kitchen is very small and compact, like a little square with everything right there, and you can like kind of turn around and reach everything. But it has this skylight about the same size of it that goes up, and it's because it's in the center of the house, and there wouldn't be any natural light in it if it wasn't for those. And it also has this like interior window that looks out onto the pool. And I remember the one afternoon, I got up I think it was like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, because I'd been up until 8 o'clock in the morning painting things and stuff. So I went to sleep for a little while, got back up, and Asan was standing on one side of the breakfast bar where like his feet were in the living room. I just had walked in and came around the corner and stopped to talk to him. And I was just standing inside the kitchen going for the coffee pot to put on the water to boil. And you hear the storm going outside. And this bolt of lightning came down through the skylight. I felt it. The hairs on my back stood up. If I'd been like a couple inches further, I probably would have been crispy. I mean, it was, and he saw it. He's facing it, right? I saw the flash and knew it came down behind me. I just leaped and I yelped and jumped out of the room, right? And we saw Arch from the kitchen, and we came through the kitchen, arched into the pool, and then out the back windows. It was like, oh my God, this is a very strange week, And then he tries to use his computer, and it's not working. So we call the computer guy, and the computer guy says, oh, the motherboard is fried. Okay, so they take the motherboard out and everything and bring it back, and the computer guy's there and says, it should be working, but it's not. And then they find out the modem is also fried. It is because of the surge. It actually did come through and hit the house, and if it hadn't jumped through the pool and back out the doors, it could have started the house on fire. So it's like, whoa, I know where not to be when there's a lightning storm in our house. Not the pool room and not the kitchen. Right? So it's just been one of those wacky type, where, when you just think it's all settled. We had the one room set up, the yoga room. Well, now it's like the baby and her mommy room and stuff. And then there's just people all over, and it's just one of those weeks.
Chaos, sure.
It's what?
Chaos.
Just controllable chaos, basically. So still, they still don't have an apartment, Zahn and her family yet, and those kind of things, and her roommate, but they'll be looking after the workshop. And it's just been really crazy. And then last night, I think it was last night. Was it last night? It was, wasn't it? When that family friend called and was freaking out because the person's significant other, who's a really sweet person, spazzed out and physically attacked the person, and the attacker ended up in jail, and the whole. I mean, just stuff is just going. I'm just sitting here watching. It's like one wacky thing after another after another. So I don't know if your week has been like anything like that. But this has something to do with whatever is on security clearance, and obviously somebody is not happy with what the Guardians are doing, because there's definitely some kind of interference. I still would not say let's take it personally, because a lot of times it's just the other good stuff that's going on between the red and green dragon groups that are fighting with each other, and the white ones that are trying to activate the Alpha Omega set and all of that. So I don't know if it's personal, but it's getting real close anyway, close to home. So in the meantime, the Beloveds said, this workshop will be run on security clearance, which means there's a big thing at the beach tomorrow evening, and hopefully it won't rain. And before that, so we'll have probably from about 2:30 in the afternoon till about 5:30 is when I think dinner is at 5:30. That will be the information they give. They haven't given it to me yet. They will give it to me tomorrow morning. And I will give it to you at 2:30, and we'll also be running some techniques that build us up to the point to do the Shadra on the beach. And then the next day, which is Sunday, we're going to have, because we're going to be on the beach till 11 p.m., probably back here by midnight or whatever, by the time everybody's on the buses and everything. The next day, that is when they're going to, because you're present, there's something that in some of the workshops, especially certain data fields that they want to be able to bring through are easiest done when the entire shield is together. And they're going to give me transmission all day. So you actually have a day where if you want to do beach or you want to do whatever, or if you want to sleep, you have a good block of time, because the workshop's going to end up starting about 9 p.m. after dinner tomorrow, Sunday night, right? And running all the way through to probably breakfast on Monday morning. So that can be anywhere from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. We'll try to put the most important stuff first. So people, if you have, they have flights or something out, we'll try to get like any activations and things done, if it's possible time-wise, before, flights have to leave. So we'll do our best with that. But it is one of those workshops where it's like, whoa, the mystery workshop. It's the mirror something or other workshop. They haven't given me the title yet. It's almost like this title, we'll find out at the end. But we are going to get, they said the focus is going to be on learning to develop this, first to be able to activate within our field certain things that will allow us to create protection fields in literal mirrors or reflective objects, and then to put those online actually with the blend zones and the Aurora Earth, so we can actually create platforms of projection. They taught me stuff with mirrors a long time ago. Mirrors can be scary if you're doing it without any protection. No, stuff can come out and grab you, and I mean, it's like stuff can fly through your house. I mean, we've always avoided getting into mirror projection, just like we avoided getting into Ouija boards and those kind of things, because if you're not doing it in a very sealed, protected field, you're just asking for trouble. But because of the Amareya temple activations that we've been participating in, and the third level will occur during the Shadra while we're on the beach, there's a certain frequencies that are opening now, and also with the ancient arrow sites open that we activated in the last workshop. We can take the veil that was in one of the techniques from last time. There's this veil between where we are and the crystal spiral aurora time wave, and where we can move into that aurora zone. We can actually put that veil in mirrors, where we can key them directly to, so you can where you can protect them. So they're going to teach us more about, first of all, how to do this. And I said, well, wouldn't it have helped if you at least said, like, everybody bring a little mirror or something, before the workshop? And they said, no, don't have to worry about that. Everybody should have a mirror in their bathroom at the hotel. And I'm going, don't play with their mirrors yet, right? They will assist us, and it's going to be after the activations on the beach on Saturday night that it will be safe to begin learning about these things and how to use them. They will teach us how to code, and on Sunday night they will teach us how to play a bit with the mirror in your bathroom here, and they'll also amplify a temporary thing. The best thing is to do, and I know they're going to end up asking us to do this, They're going to ask everybody to, when you go home, if you have a mirror you particularly feel that you like, right, that it feels good to you, that's fine. But if you don't, go buy yourself a mirror. It doesn't have to be a big one. It can be if you want it to be. We have these mirrors that are shaped like big arched doors, and you could actually walk through them if it was a doorway. And they also have iron gates that close over them that we painted silver just in case. We've had these for a long time. We found them in a catalog somewhere for a reasonable price, so we got one. One's at Shalon still, and one came with us, and it's at the new house. But you don't have to have a big one. You can use little ones, almost like if you had something, say, the size even of a cell phone, right? Once we begin to play with the technologies they're going to teach us, it's where we can actually telepath through and eventually actually be able to start seeing each other through the mirror, where you can actually communicate through the mirror and that kind of thing, to connect with each other, connect with the beloveds, those kind of things. So you can buy a little one if you want. They're saying that if you don't have a mirror that you like, or you're not sure you trust any of the mirrors that you have, even if you like them, you can like set them, but you might not want to use that one as your main contact, that they're going to have us it would be better to not like get one at a flea market or the Goodwill or a used place, because you never know what might have played with that mirror, right? And some mirrors will be harder to seal than others, especially if anybody's played any like occult games with them or anything like that. But you can go to like places that sell new ones, where it's new, is a kind of a virgin mirror, just from the manufacturer, that kind of thing. It will be less likely to have any like personally coded weird stuff with it. So then they're going to teach us how to clear it and then set the field in it, and we can use it as our, first of all, communicator, but also we'll start to get, I remember when they started me with this training, where they will lead us into Jade body, like when we go to sleep at night, and you'll start getting more advanced mirror training, where you start, where you touch it and it's solid, then you touch it and you actually start to go through, and then there's a whole set of trainings that they will teach us on the other side of how to actually move through them. Eventually, we would actually be able to, if things go really well, and everybody won't be able to do it. It depends on how far the gene code can go to a full Messiahonic activation, but we would be able to pass through them physically. Some people would be able to get that far. I know I can do it in Jade body, and it took a while to get there actually with the trainings, but they were like training me earlier before we had a lot of the activations that we've done together. But ideally, and the thing that people can aim for, is eventually you could actually step through it and end up in the blend zones and in the aurora zones, where you can actually pass through the mirror. It becomes a physical doorway. And we're not going to be doing that in this workshop. They're going to just teach us the beginnings. We can also call up all sorts of information, where you can start getting the face flip, where you start to see your other incarnational selves, and those kind of things. There's all sorts of things you can do with mirrors, but it's not really been safe to do that, because you can only hold a temporary seal. You can hold a temporary Maharic seal depending on what's been done with the mirror before. So here, even though the hotel mirrors aren't virgin mirrors anymore, there's people been using them for a long time, but we can, because the beloveds are with us and we are in shield, we can strengthen them enough to have a temporary hold once they tell us it's okay to start playing with them. But that would just be for now, for this workshop. That's why we didn't have to go and everybody raid the local drugstore and find the little pocket mirrors, and bring one to the workshop. You can if you want to when we get to the Sunday workshop, have little ones or whatever, but you don't have to, because you do have the bathroom mirrors to play with when you go back. And they might even let us do that. Some of that might actually come through a bit tomorrow, but I'm not sure, because most of the security on the mirrors, I'm getting nudged on that, is coming from the activations that will take place on the beach Saturday night. So they're not going to encourage us to play with the mirrors, before that. But Saturday night, once you go back to your room, it should be okay too. So they might give us a little bit of information on how to start this process with the mirrors once we get back from the beach, in private, kind of like homework or whatever. So this is interesting. I was very surprised when they told me that they were going to introduce the mirror training, and it's directly connected to the need to start getting people familiar with and getting literally the mental body beyond the Metatronic net, where we actually can meet beyond the net and beyond the biological and electronic controls that the net implies. And I'm just very surprised that they're actually going to use mirrors to help us do that. I had no idea they were going to go there. So this, sometimes in workshop orientations, sometimes we have longer ones. Usually they're shorter, and I just kind of say hi, and sometimes I say, hi, this is Mystery Workshop. We'll all know by Monday. Monday, right? It's kind of almost like one of those, but we have a little bit on knowing that we're going to get the beginning of advanced mirror training. And of course, the activations that we already knew were going to occur during this workshop, they will also continue and activate. That has to do with the completion, actually, of the third level of the Silver Seed Awakening that actually started in the last workshop, where we thought it was going to start in this one. So people that weren't in the last workshop, we'll probably tomorrow, before we go to the beach, do a run through again of the main technique that was used in the April workshop to get everybody up to the activation where they can take the second level of where the end part of the Silver Seed Awakening part will come through for them if they haven't had the first one. It will also amplify the fields for those who already had that first part in the last workshop. So I know that much about the program. So tonight is one of those shorter orientations where I don't know either, but we will all know quite a lot more than we do right now about all of this by Monday. But at least we do have the heads up on, we don't have to go through the crazy, well, maybe it's at 4 o'clock, well, maybe it's at 7 o'clock, oh, no, it's going to be at 10 o'clock, that kind of thing. They're already letting us know that my job all day on Sunday is getting the program in. And I'm really hoping there's not a lot of new graphs, because to try to get some of those graphs done is brutal. It's one thing to scribble notes, it's another thing to get the new graphs. That's like, oh my God, that graph alone will take 3 hours, you know what I mean? So I don't know what to expect, but we've got the full office equipment things set up with us as usual. It does give you, the day on Saturday to sleep, to play, to do anything you'd like. I mean, I'm sure there's some people have rental cars, some people just take cabs or whatever. You can go to the beach, and it should be a nice day. And the water, by the way, I've heard is warm now. It's kind of like bathtub warm. My daughter said, Bree said that actually, she said it's it's really warm. In fact, it's a lot warmer than the swimming pool. It was 79 degrees in the swimming pool. Ew. But it's like 86 or something, they said, at the 84, 86 at the ocean. So it is a good time to do beach, where it was cold the other times we were there. I don't really have a lot more to share with you in regard to that. I wanted to share with you my wacky week. It might be a good time, actually. I'm just getting a nudge here, and we don't usually have time to do this, so this might be a good time to do it a little bit. As far as questions, I don't know why, but I'm getting nudged to, is there anybody that has any questions in general about anything? Not any heavy specific stuff from back workshops or whatever, because that I'd have to go research it myself. But in general, yeah, sure.
Can the mirror be a magnifying mirror?
Can the mirror be a magnifying mirror? That's a good question. Let me ask. Yes and no, depending on the application, is what I just got. Okay, so
10 magnification, 5, 10.
you're going 12 would be best. Right? Increments of 12. Right. Or
5, 10, 15.
or numbers following the crystal spiral expansion, right? Was that 2, 4, 8, 16, right? That kind of thing. They're saying if you can't avoid 10s, right, just because the crossover implications, and do not do 55s. Right?
What about 15? 5 is 1 to 6.
That can go either way, they're saying, right? Because there is a plug-in. Yeah, okay. We were having a little bit of exchange about, she'd asked if magnification mirrors are okay, the ones that magnify things times whatever. And I had no idea, so I asked Vertical, and they said, yes and no, depends on the application. And we got into, well, is like a times 10 okay? And they said they'd rather us avoid times 10, but use say a times 2 or a times 4, times 8, times 16 amplification in the mirrors using the Christic spiral expansion rates, as opposed to the 10s and things that are more associated with the Metatronic coding. So it was just a little dialogue there about whether magnification mirrors would be something we could use in these processes. So they'll probably tell us more. It was a very good question. They'll probably tell us more about what applications it would be advisable or not to use magnification mirrors in. So, okay, I hope that answers that question enough. There'll be more to come on that probably. Right, okay, yes?
Can you talk about the oil spill in Gulf, or is that under security clearance?
That will come out in program. All right, he asked the question of, can I talk about the oil spill in the Gulf? And that is going to, or is it on security clearance? Yes, it is on security clearance at the moment, but yes, we will be discussing it in program, probably in Sunday's program. But this is like the beginning of the wacky month on the planet. You know, now we're sitting here, we just bought our house, 13 miles away from the most beautiful beach in the world, and we're all sitting here waiting to see if it's going to turn up with black scum all over it, right? We will talk about that. This accident, of course, let's say, had some help. And they haven't told me who and why yet, but it is connected to the agenda where they're linking the whites are linking the alpha omega set into the gravitron that we've talked about ages ago that controls the planetary staff. It is connected to this. It's also somehow connected to our Mayan cruise that we're doing, which is a grid handover cruise that we're going there. We're doing the Mayan cruise and down to Roatan and stuff. That's October, isn't it? In October, in order for there's the Greens, which have to do with the Mayan ruins and stuff, are turning their grids over to the Chris Shield, and we're kind of like the pickup crew. There's a connection with this too. They haven't revealed what that is to me either, but I'm sure we'll learn some more about it. I don't know how much more when we have the longer program on Sunday. Yeah. Yes.
Well, we have something as far as anything to do with helping to solve that spill. The reason why I asked that, I'm 50 miles north of the spill.
Oh dear. Okay, so it's heading your way really fast, huh? Yeah, bless you. Okay, he asked the question of, is there anything we'll be doing to do something about this spill, like to try to help? And the answer to that question is yes. I know that some part of the Chandra Shield that we are going to be doing tomorrow night has to do with helping to move those currents in a certain way, and also helping to coagulate the oil. Almost try to form a skin where it starts to at least slow its process, its spewing, until they can cap it. So we're going to work that. I know that's part, they did give me a little bit that, by the way, yes, we are going to try to move, use the group energy to work with the earth and do something about this. Because right now it's still just spewing. They haven't figured out how to stop it. So it's just spewing millions of gallons of oil in. Yes?
Just to follow up, I don't know how much national media exposure is coming from this, but this answers a lot of the local stuff that's going on, because there's been a lot of foot dragging.
There's been a lot of
Foot dragging.
foot dragging.
Not doing anything quickly.
Right, not doing
That's
anything
where you start
quickly.
to get frustrated and pointing your fingers.
Right. Okay.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, it's been over a month now that it's just spewing and spewing into the Gulf. This is much worse too than this spill is much worse than it looks like. And I can't believe. I mean, the media all over the place should be jumping up and down every day. But everybody's just dragging their feet like, oh yeah, there's a gaping hole in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and it's spewing millions of gallons of gas over, whatever. We'll fix it eventually. Hello? There is enough oil that has leaked out of there to wipe out the entire life field in the Gulf of Mexico. They have no idea. I don't care what their experts and scientists are saying. They have no idea what's out there already. And what they're throwing on top of it to try to break it up. I think dishwashing liquid at the moment. Oh God, they're using like that. I won't mention the brand name. Dishwashing liquid that breaks up grease, right? They're actually putting millions of jugs of this stuff in, oh God, to break it up. Why in the world, this question just blows my mind, why in the world does anybody give anybody permits or permission to do something like that when they don't have a very specific set of things that if this goes wrong, this is what we do. If that goes wrong, this is what we do, and this is how long it takes. They don't know what to do with it. How in the world are people letting people dig gaping holes in the middle of our waters like this when if they break, they don't know what to do to stop the gushing? That's utterly insane.
Well, it didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, they had little theoretical ideas of it. Yeah, right.
Actual thing is in the ground that was supposed to do a job and it didn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, Asa was pointing out something. Supposedly there's this thing in the ground that was supposed to shut it down, but it didn't do it. But don't you think there'd be like, and if that doesn't work, we do this, right? There is a no, if that doesn't work, we do this. There's very interesting connection, too. It's something I heard on the radio. I won't repeat the name of the company that had to do with some kind of seal that was supposed to do just that and didn't. But it's very interesting because that has to do with a certain administration and a certain person who ended up as vice president, who was actually ahead of one of the heavy Red Dragon teams that, with the puppet president in front of him. It's just interesting. I don't know any more about it, and we don't name names as far as large corporations that could come and make you disappear really fast. So it's not worth it, but there is a connection there, and part of, I guess, what failed and why this is gushing is because something went wrong with a part or something from that particular company too. So it's very, very strange. It's also very, very strange that, what is it, BP? I'll mention them because they're all over the place because it's their spill. But there was a show on that said how many times were they already fined. They've had the 2 largest fines ever given for other types of spills that occurred because they break protocol as far as safety protocol. After 2, why did they get the 3rd chance? There's just, it is so out of control on this planet. As far as the politics, there's a whole, the world management team's controlling that stuff. It doesn't really matter what the little people say anymore. It doesn't matter how many of us stomp up and down and link hands across the Gulf of Mexico. They're still going to drill these things, in the same place, same thing in other places. But in the meantime, there's the immediate crisis that is occurring. That stuff is still gushing. One of the things that Beloved said we can try to do with it is to interact with the orb reservoir that opened in the fields last, its core actually, last workshop. And we can work with that. And the best thing to do is attempt to coagulate it from underground to at least slow the spewing. We may not be able to, there may not be enough quantum even in the reservoir itself to actually stop, pressure-wise, to stop the thing. And if you did, where's it going to blow up otherwise? They're still going to get pressure pushing. So it's a very delicate thing. Even if you could just put an energy field on it, stop it from spewing. It's already moved its natural pressure patterns under there. As far as, you cap this end, you're going to have things shooting up in other places, and that's going to start creating geological responses in terms of pressure changes in plates and things like that. So it is quite a large thing to do, but they are going to have us in some way do something to try to coagulate, but not fully stop, because if you fully stop, you're going to have pressure issues in other plates. Even if we could generate enough quantum to actually cap it ourselves, capping it completely isn't the right solution. This has to be done slowly to balance the pressure in the grids. And I don't know if science talks about that or not, but that's what they just, were letting me know. So yes, we will, as far as that question, and help with this problem. Is there any other questions? Yes?
Can you share anything on volcanic eruption in Iceland?
Oh, that. Great. Yeah, she asked if we could share anything on the volcanic eruptions in Iceland. Yeah. Or how many earthquakes happened over 6 point whatever last month, or these are all linked together, okay? The volcanic eruptions are again linked to various things that are being activated as far as temples. They haven't told us as far as, this might be connected with an arrow site actually, I'm getting a nudge on that, they haven't given me specifics, but it does show us something. It shows us how instantly our way of life can be instantly changed. I mean, there were people stuck in airports for days and weeks because planes couldn't fly, because not even in England and Ireland, no, this is up in Iceland, this has occurred, but the plume of ash and gas is making it so planes can't fly, where if that kept going, all we'd have left are what, boats? Yeah, pretty much. Like, we could do boats, we could do trains, cars on the ground. So as far as across the Atlantic, it would have stopped any transit across the Atlantic that wasn't by boat. This kind of thing. There's a lot more to it. All of these events are linked. I also think it's very strange that since in the last year or so, there's been so many earthquakes that had numbers 6 and over. This is becoming normal, where people are going, it's only a 6.8. Huh? A couple of years ago, it was like anything over 4, and you're going, whoa, that's a big one. That's getting bigger. Wow, 6. Oh, my God, megaquake 6. Now they're like 7.8, 8.8, 9. Jeez. These are just signs of the times to come. The pressure is building in the planetary grids. When they work with the mirror, when they start beginning teaching us with these mirror trainings, it will have a certain level of purpose where we create fields in the blend field where we can actually go and meet and even like pick up data streaming from each other, from meetings that, we kind of do it at our lone harmonic time zone, where we can actually tap in wherever we are at our time to one that has taken place before and experience it live, where we can start getting instruction, and they'll show us things. They'll do the big like hologram thing where they just have these little discs like the CDD plays, so you just kind of zap them and they go, and they show you like major maps, and they can spin like several different, fields, and we will get training in that way. And our job is going to be to learn to stay awake during it and realize it happened, because a lot of times we're already getting that. There's a wave of workshop training that's been coming through that seems to hit somewhere between 3 and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I don't know if that translates, if that's actually the time, like on the harmonic time, or that time on any, in any time zone, but where it's almost like your blood sugar drops down into the floor, and it's like if you don't lay down, you're going to pass out because you're busy, right? It's like I'm learning to, all right, I'm going to go lay down kind of thing. There's part of the consciousness being taken in to training sessions. But I don't remember when I come back. I just remember I have to lay down. I might have a little bit of memory left. It was something about that, right? But we are being invited into training like that, and to the point where it's affecting like how the physical body functions. There's another thing. They just wanted me to talk about this. There's another effect. And I wasn't sure for myself if it was just happening because of exhaustion, because I've been doing so many all-nighters for the last 2 months trying to get the house fixed up and all of that stuff. And I say, well, maybe it's just me because I'm exhausted. But I've been getting this effect, and it's been super amplified in the last week, and especially the last 3 days. Whereas if you can imagine if you were looking at the view in front of you, whatever it is, through, say, a movie camera, a TV camera, right? And you're watching it. And then if somebody went boom, boom with a TV camera, where it's just like this shift happens, and I actually visually see it, and it makes me feel like my brain floats in my head temporarily. Whoa, it's just, and a couple times a day it happens, and it's gotten more and more and more intense, and it's fine. It's not a problem. It's not a headache. It's not blurred vision even. It's just a effect where you're just gonna go. And I had one really weird effect where I was walking around. There's the three sides of the pool have a very, very thin walkway around them, like they didn't build the building very far away from where the pool was, so you have like just a walkway, so you're like walking close to the water, and there's no like fence or anything around it. It's just there in the floor, and if you take a wrong step, you're in it. And I remember I was walking around the one corner, and one of those effects started, and then it felt like the whole room tilted like this. And I got, oh no, I was like not by the pool. I was like this close to like falling in the pool, literally, when it did it. So this has to do with the excuse me, the activation starting, the blend zone activations, the 2 time waves, which means 2 space waves as well, because we're getting the blend zone frequencies starting to come in. And the body is literally starting to register. The mental body level is starting to pick it up, so we're starting to get effects. If you start getting effects like that, don't let it freak you out or scare you. But just gotta sit down and go, yeah, whoa, okay. If you ever, like when you're driving or anything, and I do know the beloveds will watch, your Buddha team will watch with stuff like this, they will do their best to, if they feel an activation like that coming, if you're in a place where it would be dangerous for that to happen, they will actually hold it off in your field until you're in a place where you're safer, so you don't have to worry about, whoa, my car is going to tilt and I'm going to go, They won't let that happen. They will intervene and help they can buffer it, like to wait to get to a time when it's safer for you. Same with if you have like 9 to 5 jobs or whatever hour jobs, if you have to be on that job during the point of time when the actual shield like workshops are going on in the blend zone, where you normally get got to go to sleep because I'm busy there, and you can't do it. They will do the same thing if you ask them to just buffer it, and you will plug in on your lone harmonic time, so it won't make it where you become dysfunctional in the regular 3D things you have to do in life to survive on the 3D level. But there are some interesting things happening anyway. I don't know why they wanted me to bring that up, but probably because we're going to get more of those effects. I wouldn't doubt. Okay, yes, I see a hand back there. You.
My cousin died tragically exactly 2 weeks ago in a car accident, and it was mile marker 55.
Ooh.
And since then, a lot of people in my hologram have been mentioning how their uncle died and a friend of theirs cousin died. Just all of these deaths I'm hearing about, and I'm wondering, is there anything you could say about that? Any like death wave people going out right now for a certain reason?
Okay. Yeah, well, they said they'll address that. She was just saying that it was your uncle that died? Your cousin. All right, her cousin had died tragically 2 weeks ago in a car accident at mile marker 55. Lovely. But she's been talking about that with other people, like around her and family and stuff. She's been finding lots of people have had somebody that has died recently and checked out. And she was wondering if there was some kind of like wave moving out or whatever. And the fact is, there will be little pockets like that where there are certain groups that may not appear even connected on the outside, but they will start moving out together. Because right now we are in an evacuation. And some of us will stick around for 200 years or try to anyway. But there will be pockets of people that do move off planet together. Now the 55 is obviously symbolic of the Metatronic side, but it doesn't necessarily mean to jump to conclusion that the Metatronic side got them, right? It could be just that almost like a waking dream for you, really, to let you know it's because of that I need to leave. So it's not necessarily that, I left and went Metatronic because it was a 55. So sometimes you'll get waking dream symbols attached with those things, but it doesn't always mean to interpret them toward the negative. Just like when we got like the toxic mold attack, right, at my daughter's apartment. We could have taken that as direct attack, or we could have taken it on, they had a mission to do actually, because this landlord didn't know the problem was there. So in it being revealed the way it was, and he was being fair in the whole bit, they actually did a service. And she also got to be up at the house for a little while, which is nice, and I enjoyed it. So it was like a positive as opposed to looking at it as negative. In the instance of that car accident where it happened at mile marker 55, you could take it as, oh dear, the Metatronic net got him. Or I have to leave because, of the 55 activations, I'm not going to stick around for that. I would interpret that one to the positive. So you can really look at it either way, and it's best to actually look at anything like that. There will be that element to every, even the most horrible thing, you see? It's going to be more and more important with the mental body, now that we are getting out of the MetNet, on the D3 level, to actually say, I see the both, but I interpret it this way. This is what this is to me. I will interpret to the positive, even if you see the element of the negative. Don't resist the element of the negative. Just say, no, this is the reality of it. And this is how the other part, how the lower wave would look at it. So you start riding the higher wave with the mental body. So no matter how awful it seems, even, oh my God, there's oil spewing out of the center of the Gulf of Mexico. How do we look at this one positively? I'm not sure, actually. I know there is a positive way to look at this. Don't know what it is, but I know the beloveds will also address how we can look at that as a positive, even though it's an obvious negative, how there is a positive aspect to it. I'm almost afraid to think that there might be an element that there's going to be so much, actually, oceanic life, death of oceanic life caused by this, that it may actually be facilitating an evacuation wave of a whole bunch of species in the Gulf, and that's very possible. So even though that is heartbreaking on that level, that is still a positive that's coming from an apparent negative. So we start to see that both, every negative will have a positive element, even though you might have to really look at it to see how could that possibly have any, like somebody gets murdered or something like that, how could that possibly be a good thing? Well, it's not a good thing. It's obviously not a good thing. But the Christ will show, there will be an aspect of Christ that does apply to anything. If somebody got murdered, maybe that happened because there was a whole karmic thing. Maybe in that murder, they let themselves become the victim so they could release the karma, so they didn't have to repeat it anymore, so they actually got out on, could get out on ascension. So there is that hidden Christ, that hidden silver lining inside every cloud. And it doesn't negate the negative. There is still the negative too. But just like it is a negative that you're, especially for the people around him, your cousin, had a terrible accident, and that was probably traumatic for him too, crossing over. Because when you take accidents out, you tend to be like when you get to the other side, until you have way showers kind of saying okay now, right, and that kind of thing. But in the ultimate, it was a positive in the sense that he's getting out before the 55 activations fully occur on the planet. So I think they're going to talk to us more about this probably on Sunday, about how to really get a grip on our minds. And it doesn't mean deny the negative, and it doesn't mean deny accountability for people who are doing negative, or even if like your body does a negative and you weren't around when it did it. There's still an accountability factor. There's a lot of that going around, by the way, even though, some people extractions worked really well for. For others, there's still the companion. And where you get the push back and forth, where you have the unpleasant side of an identity coming out and causing harm, and then the other side coming back and not remembering half the harm it caused, that kind of stuff. There is still some of that going around with some people, and some people will always have more of a genetic vulnerability to that. And it doesn't mean that the one who comes back and said, well, I didn't do it. Well, maybe you didn't, but your body did, and you have to own it. Right? Because then you have to try to make amends or whatever to the one, to the ones you may have caused harm to. And but it also means that where the ones that were harmed need also to realize that that person feels as victimized as they did. Because if you really did something horrible to somebody you don't remember, you come back and it's like, oh my God, I did what? The idea isn't saying, how dare you? I didn't do that. I didn't. Yeah, if you did, you did. And if they remember and you don't, sorry. They were still there to, unfortunately they do remember. But there's this whole thing, and this, because there's a wave of this again, moving a bit with some people, I've noticed, in the group, and I've seen some of the people and our friends and stuff like that, where that twist is coming. And it's not a full-on, like a possession thing, like they were before, when, before they did the extraction waves. It's more like a harassment, where the genetic vulnerability is still there. Some people carry that vulnerability, and the others will, from the Metatronic side, will ride the Metatronic codes and push. What is good, I'm just getting this now, thank you. What is good, and this is why we're seeing a bit more of this, is because the Metatronic codes are still activating on the D3, the D2, and the D1 level until we bring that Metatronic freeze that entered the density level in the last workshop progressively down. So that mental body, Metatronic activation that allows a temporary push in of a Metatronic consciousness that tends to be very, at this point, aggressive toward the Christic's consciousness, that should progressively we become immune to that after the activations of this workshop. So you still might get biological push until we get the next sliders where we get the biological level under the Metatronic freeze. Because this stuff is occurring because the Metatronic codes are activating in the grid, so it's giving more access to the consciousness again, to the negative side who's trying to mess with people directly. And this will be eased by the time we leave this workshop. So that wave will be capped, in other words, and hopefully a bit of that oil will be capped as well. All right, any other questions? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that started a lot. Okay, who's went up first there? I think I saw yours first. I don't know if yours went up first. I'll just, you might as well. Right, good.
I actually had 2 questions. One of them came up from something you mentioned a few minutes ago, and you haven't talked about it much since St. Kitts Erupwell 2009, but you had mentioned that because of a vice president with heavy red affiliation and a puppet president, is there some kind of shift of balance of power that's kind of been going on that's pertinent from when Obama got in? Is that kind of what you were referring to?
No, I was trying not to name presidents that aren't trees. They're not trees, they're shh, right? Yes, puppets, no.
I think the question asked him whether he meant whether the behind-the-scenes manipulation of the presidency and the acolytes.
Okay, I'm trying to understand what the question was in the first place. Really, I mean, I know where you're going with this, so that I answered it that way because I felt that no, that's not what I was saying. It has nothing to do with the Obama or politics or anything with Obama right now or any of that. I wasn't making a commentary on politics right now in relation to, what was happening now. I was making a relationship to a corporation who was connected to an ex-vice president that has to do with a faulty part that was connected to this oil spill. So that's all I was referring to. I wasn't going into any of the more political stuff. I was just trying not to mention ex-presidents and vice presidents by name, or large corporations that could sue you and kill you. I've done enough of that, though. You're thinking I'm still breathing. Anyway, all right, did you want to address any more of that? You don't? Okay. All right. Next question. You had 2, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the first one I wanted to ask you,
Sorry.
there was a little confusion on my part. When the sun Bardoed, I was under the impression it was about 20 or 25 years of radiation that would pretty much render things fairly unlivable. And then I got a little confused with the 220 years that were left, and I was wondering if it was the mirror ball that would protect us from the radiation from the Bardoing sun, which extended it to 220. Or was there still a radiation problem between now and 2047?
Okay, that's a good question. It's kind of a condensed question that had to do with still concern about with the bardoing of the sun that we've talked about and the ring waves of radiation, gamma radiation being released. but then we're still talking about a 200-year period of loadout evac. And like, is there something that is going to, because he was under the understanding that the ring waves would progressively make it where you could not live on the planet, and earlier than 200 years from now. So what is happening? And basically that has to do with, first of all, when we started the Aquiline Sun activations that actually put a buffer field both around the sun and around the planet that helps transmute those gamma transmissions before they go live. That was the beginning. The mirror ball stuff that we did in the last workshop, or started in the last workshop, is the beginning part of building what's called the mirror in the sky. The mirror in the sky is a more amplified version that also will go around the solar field. Once those fields are set, they will transmute the gamma bursts of that. Eventually, there will still be solar flaring that will increase, and eventually, possibly before the 200 years, depending on how our gates hold and depending on how these buffer fields hold, depending on how the mirror in the sky and the mirror ball fields hold, will depend on whether the solar radiation will affect us sooner or will actually get up to the 200 years from now. All right, so, but we will get through the initial, like the 50, I mean, there's 15 ring waves, one a year, and they progressively build. So far, so good. There hasn't been any major, solar whack, solar flare stuff knocking satellites out or anything, and this is a good sign, which means it's the Aquiline buffer field is holding so far, and that will be amplified by the mirror in the sky. But there still is a chance. It depends on how our grids hold between, say, once we make it through 2012 and all the mess and the Metatronic activation, and we hold that field. Once we get there, then from 2013, to the end of the 200-year loadout period, a lot will depend on how strong we can hold these grids and how stable we can keep the planetary grids. The other side's going to do what they do, which they're trying to flip the place. They're not going to be happy that they're not going to succeed in 2012, and they're still going to try to do it, and they're still messing with the solar gates and those kind of things. But we should be able to get to at least the 2047. We should be able to get into that period, but it may get weird. This is why they're starting the mirror communication network now, because if there comes a time where those flares start, forget cell phones and stuff, forget TV reception. Once that, if some of that radiation can't be transmuted and the sun starts to spew, the life we know right now, where we can jump in cars, we can call on phones, we have TVs, we have radios, all that stuff, that'll be gone in an instant. The volcano ash showed us that. I mean, planes just couldn't fly, period. Because of one little volcano in Iceland, it totally knocked out the European grids. They couldn't get out of Europe, right? So this is why they're starting us now, in case it gets strange as we move along, where we have an alternative way that we can communicate that does not rely on electrical function in the usual way down here on the Caduceus grid electrical function. So that was a good question. I hope that it helps you understand a little bit more. It's because of first the Aquiline Sun, next the mirror ball, which is an amplification of the Aquiline Sun plus a lot more, and then the mirror in the sky, which is an amplification, which goes up for 2012. That is the amplification of the mirror ball. Those things can theoretically, if the others weren't doing other stuff to keep messing things up, that would hold with no problem till for the rest of the 200 years. But because we know the other side is going to keep trying to flip the planet, keep trying to do what they're doing, it's really a war of attrition frequency-wise. As long as we can hold, and the planet holds, and we help the planet to hold against the other pull of the Metatronic mess, that we can still theoretically reach that 200-year point. If not, there will be earlier evacs. And that's another purpose that mirrors can be very useful for. They would try to get us to the point where we could, if we had to, we didn't need to wait for a spaceship in the yard. No, we just walk through the mirror. That kind of thing. And theoretically, might be able to take some people with you if, depending on how strong your field was, you could actually create a temporary buffer capsule around somebody who couldn't actually do that by themselves. So like your children or something like that. So this is the beginning of that kind of training. If it gets weird, when those things with the sun, continue to happen, when the things with the gravitron that they're getting a hold of continue to happen, if it goes into faster than 200 years, we have to get out of here. The mirror training is the beginning of what will be the most important thing we've ever learned. It will be how to get out of here. So anyway, they was all connected. It was interesting how that set a little bit of question you asked there really put a bunch of pieces together, actually, including the mirror training. Okay, so a couple other questions. Oop, yeah, I already got you once. Let me get somebody back here. There's somebody back here. Hi, Mary. Hi.
I'm wondering what's up with the biosphere. The biosphere
She was asking about the biosphere, that we're having we've actually been asked to go there for grid work, so it's being as an option on the Phoenix August program. I think it's in Tucson, isn't it? Because, yeah. And we've been asked to go there. The answer to the question is why the biosphere? I don't know why the biosphere. They want us to go there, first of all, for grid work, but they also want us to see something and learn something that has something to do with what they're planning to teach us in the Phoenix period workshop, which is Sliders 8, I think. Right, so they haven't given me the program. I don't have the program here for Sliders 7 yet, and we're here, right? But it's connected to whatever some of the subject matter on the next Sliders is. And the next Sliders 8, will be the advanced level on the body, the emotional body, the D2 emotional body and physical body. So this has something to do with it. The biosphere is like I said, it was an experiment to try to create a sustainable, self-sustaining life field, like for Mars, where you could actually have kind of like biodomes and things like that, and you can grow your own plants and have your own like water system recycles and all of that. There's something in there that they would like us to see, as well as just go and stomp on the place to run frequency. So that's as much as I know about it at this time. But I feel a little giggle about it. I don't know why. Like, this is going to be neat, even though, yes, it's Illuminati built, right? Just like the big one they have over in England. That is the Eden Project. There's amazing, biomes with trees of all sorts and lots of Metatronic trees and things. Yes, the buckyballs by the million, Aesop said, right? Which are the Buckminster-Fullerene configuration, where you see those geodesic dome-type buildings. They're very much connected to Metatronic sacred geometry, actually. But it's fascinating to see these places, and there's something they want us to learn about the one in Phoenix. And I'm not sure what the connection to the program is, but they've also said that the grid work is very important. So that's as much as they have on the biomes and why. So they say, would you please do this? And we say, sure, we'll put it on the program. So that's that. Next one. Yes, please. Is that you, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What, I understand that we were going to do something with the encryption lattice as well. I was just wondering if you touched on that. Or if we're going to touch on the encryption lattice.
Okay, well, yeah. You asked if we're going to do something more on integrating the mirror ball activations and the encryption lattice. Yes, what we're going to be doing in this workshop to use those two words together is in the last workshop we brought the mirror ball frequencies online with the density level encryption lattice, right? Now we're going to be bringing it online with the D3 mental body encryption lattice, all right? So, and then the next slider is the D2 physical body encryption lattice. So that's the connection of those two things. The encryption lattice is always implied when we're dealing with mirror ball, in other words, all right? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. We're on D3 this time, advanced mental body training, which means the D3 level of the of the encryption lattice is what we will be working with. Which explains the crazy things. Yeah, I've been wondering that. Yeah, mental body. Yeah, if you don't go mental by the time you get to this workshop because of the crazy stuff. Anyway, I think that answered that question. Any more? We have a couple. Well, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, we'll just do one or two more because this is an orientation. Gosh, we haven't had time to ask questions in ages. We could probably go here all night anyway, but I have to go back and get the program. Yes. Okay.
Like pictures from space about a giant whirlpool being created in the Gulf of Yemen.
I've heard something about that too, actually. Okay.
Second question is, I was recently offered a job for like building radio towers. I wanted to know if that would be a bad idea.
That was really cute. All right, first. All right, first question of that, what the gentleman asked, was about, he's heard something about that from space, that you can see that in the Gulf of Yemen, there's a whole bunch of ships circling around because there's something that opened up that kind of is like a Stargate or a vortex or something. There is something to that. I've heard that too, and I don't know where I even heard it, but the Beloved's saying, yes, that's something else, but that's a different story. That's not going to be covered in this workshop. But yes, and there's more than just that one. There are 3 active, whatever they are, and they're not saying what they are on the planet. As far as whatever's in the Gulf of Yemen, yes, there is one, and there's 2 other ones, and they are known. Actually, they're actually they're trying to keep it quiet militarily and those kind of things, but they're not getting into that right now because that would put us in danger. Okay. Yeah, we're on a need-to-know basis. I mean, it's certain stuff that they could really entertain us all with what is really going on with the Illuminati on the planet, but it would get us in trouble to the point where they would shut us up. You know, so that is kind of like in a security clearance level that when it's time to talk about that, they will make reference to it. As far as you just got a job building radio towers, and just wondering if it's a good idea to take it. Actually, sure, because you can run the frequencies right into the metal and bring the double time wave, the Krish time wave, right in with the Metatronic one. So it's kind of like embrace the opposite of what you stand for sometimes, so you can love it and let it blend. So if you like the job, go for it. It's our opinion. Okay. Unless there's one more urgent question, we will, 1, 2, okay. Oh, come on. Are they really urgent? Are they really urgent?
Just one.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for that Camelot interview, and I'm wondering when it'll be on the internet.
Oh, okay. All right. That one I will. It's not urgent, but I will. Well, it was just saying thank you for for us doing the Camelot interview and wondering when it's going to be on the internet. I have no idea when they're going to put it on. They're supposed to put it on within like sometime. I think the beginning of June was the original, because when Carrie. Yeah, it'll be after this workshop, because Carrie agreed that it was okay that we released it because we'd promised it to the people from that workshop, from the last workshop, that they could pick it up here and we could have it here. But it's not been released on the Camelot site yet, because she had 3 or 4 other interviews before us that were done before us that were still in the editing process. So in all fairness, you have to put on whoever you did next, you put next. So we were like 3 behind, or 3 or 4 behind. So she did say somewhere probably in the June-ish framework, we're thinking. So somewhere not too long from now, it should be on the Camelot Project site. So that would answer that question. And thank you for thanking us for doing the interview. I hope it's helpful. I still go back there. I can't wait to see it, because, oh my God, we went for 7 hours. What did we even talk about? Where did we even start? I don't even remember. There was so much of it. I might have mentioned Ascension. I know we started there and just went, I was showing diagrams from like that workshop coming, right? And going, whoa, and this is going out as the entry level? Oh my God. So it's going to be interesting to watch it. Because sometimes with workshops, when they're, or even like intense interviews like that, after I get done with them, then you just want to go to sleep. And when you wake up and go, what did we talk about? I don't even remember. There was so much. I have no idea how we organized that, right? Where it was perfectly there, because the Beloveds gave me the night before, they gave me the setup. They gave me 80 graphs that I was supposed to use in this interview, and we used most of them. So anyway, I think that's probably a good point to say, happy orientation, and you can have a good evening. And we will, I would say, probably 2:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. We will go into what the Chandra is about, and we'll get the first part of the program. Then tomorrow evening, 5:30 is the set dinner time, and then by 7 they're going to start loading us on the buses. So we're at the beach probably for sunset, which will be lovely. And then we will stay and do the Shadra, and that is going to be during that Shadra that we do work to try to coagulate the oil mess in the Gulf, to try to slow that, and to actually try to distribute some of the pressure, to spread it out and maybe open some more veins, if we can, in the earth itself, that will start pulling some of that pressure off so it stops the spew level. So they'll tell us more about that by the time we get to the pre-grid work briefing session. And then, excuse me? Oh, okay, they're just letting me know there's 4 announcements to make before we go. Okay, all right. Any of this stuff could actually happen. I mean, Sunday, because they have Sunday during the day free.
Things at different times.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
If you say goodnight, I'll just tell them.
Yeah, I will say goodnight, so then Isan can let us know about the other announcements. But I'm glad you're all here, and this ought to be fun. And by Monday, we'll know what it's all about.
Just 2 minutes, please. I've been asked to read these for you. Next, immediately after our leaving now, in preparation for level 1 and 2, Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Ordination, that will follow this, the Emerald and Amethyst Awakening activation.
Yeah, that's supposed to be done before.
Yeah, it is, yes, I said so. Tomorrow, Saturday at 1 p.m., level 1 and 2 ordinations. Prior to ordinations, how does that work? This one's got 4 o'clock and no day.
Yeah, we're going to do this one before level 3.
Before level 3, okay. So, at 4 o'clock on Sunday, the Mahara baptismal rite at 4 o'clock, which precedes and prepares for the level 3 regent's ordination at 4:30 on Sunday. Okay, thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Good day, boys and girls. Good day, grown-ups. Good day, would-bees, wannabes, and already are being. Okay, we begin the program with a little bit of ASAN time, which usually means prep for something else, which usually means we don't know quite what the something else is yet, but by the time I've done with you, we might have got beyond the wah tones, which is what we're waiting for, to know more about the wahs. Yes. And we all seem to have a connection or two, which is quite confusing because it could be that you're a wah that is inclined to the feminine, but you're in a male body, which is going to be kind of interesting. And vice versa, and combinations of both. So, and they relate to the 3 paths fundamentally and our relationships to them. And I think we were working on this, and we were both running line together until about 5:30 this morning. Yeah, we were going to go to bed right after we finished last night. What was this? Yeah. They correspond to service roles as well, the wahs, actually, and which of the 3 paths we serve. And that, to some degree, would suggest that some of us hold gate keys and codes that at a certain point, or points, we would facilitate the opening of gates to allow passage. And that also raises some tricky questions about those that are servicing the 4 gates have to get the hell out there real quick because we don't want to accompany them too far down that path, if you understand what I'm saying. However, before we can get to ambitious levels of service performance like that, there are some things that we have to do, starting with this afternoon, where, would you just show that one, Dickie, please? We're going to begin, before we go to the beach, we will have completed the level 3 silver seed activations, which relate to the gold and silver 1 Ettore Monadic Crystal Temple field, which relates back to the FOL chart pack. And I just brought this mylar down just to give you a quick visual reminder of what that relates to. I'm not going to talk about it to any great extent. What we're going to do is to complete this sequence this afternoon and before we get to the beach. So, that's enough, Dickie. Just a reminder is all I wanted to give. So, what our list of business for the remainder of the session with me while Ash is dealing with the WAS question is, first of all, to deal with a Shadra organization on the beach in the dark when incompetents like me even remember but forget to bring the flashlight. So how we're going to resolve it is as follows. The Beloveds have given us permission under the circumstances with 278 people to organize. They approved a plan that I proposed, which consists of using the kind of the tribe shadras, which is like the spokes of the wheel, the 12, nesting with 12. They get permission for a proposal of a 4-ring shadra, essentially, in the core. Well, that's 48. And then with a single ring, fitted as best we can manage in the darkness on the beach, of 96. and then the balancing number, which is 120 something, I think, 122 maybe, a circle of that number on the outside. So really, there are times when we've stressed when it's really highly appropriate to concentrate on the geometry, and we will for the Essential 48, which will hold what we need held in that way. But then to complete with the 6 circles under the circumstances is fairly ambitious anyway. All right, it's going to be hard to do with such a large number of people. So that we got the nod on that. And so I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute and just explain to you how we're going to get ourselves to personally identify with where we should be and everything else. Right after we've dealt with the shadow questions, we will go on then to a run. It will be a run of the techniques that were done live after the Easter workshop. And that will be a booster for those that were present, and it will also be the essential catch-up for those who weren't. So everybody will be up to speed and together. Those that get in the booster will also be capable of benefiting and supporting the people around them who will be doing it for the first time. Then I have here in my what began as a 12 tribes file, but it's now the everything file. We have a particular paper sequence of tones that have been used at different times for different reasons, dating back to the Dublin workshop late last year. But there's a selection of things taken from certain workshops, which would normally have involved drum too, but they essentially want us to utilize the vocal tones for this particular sequence of things, that is what we're working with to complete this particular level 3 activation. Now, in the paper sequence, note to self is to just publicly clarify what exactly we say, where we include whatever we say about the Messiah Hannah councils, okay, in the Crystal River Prayer. Okay, so this is a common note, and it's a note that we will be using from this point forward whenever we recite the Crystal River. This is where and how we'll incorporate the reference to the Messiah Hannah councils, okay? And there's something that we've been told to do, and we don't understand it yet, but it's where there's a particular suffix where it relates to a specific council subset of the Messianic Council, where there's an Aquarian and an Aquian, and they're different. They occur in different places. So, pardon? I'll deal with it right now. Okay, as it were on page 1, you hit the run of the Kamsa Ehos. And you get down as far as the Duriteta Ushalezun. Right after that, you would add Kamsa Eho Duriteta Mashayahana Aquion. Right there. And that's the only time we use the Acrian suffix. There are 2 more plates, pardon? No. I could only do it phonetically because we haven't even got as far. We just wrote it down. I mean, Asher doesn't know how to spell it at the moment. A-Q-U-A. E, what? All of it. Where it goes. Okay. You have the you have the sequence of the Kamsa Ehos, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you get to the Du Rosette, right? Right after that, and before Kamsa Eho Durateta Ut Aurore. In between those 2, you put the Kamsa Eho Durateta Mashayana Aquion. Mashayahana Aquion. A, and either E-I-O-N or I-O-N, and I'm not sure which is technically correct. And as you've noticed anyway, from time to time, things are spelt differently. and change over time until finally it gets nailed as one particular thing. Sometimes because you guys ask questions, and sometimes because the beloveds just do it. Now, the second place it crops up is in part 2. We pick up part 2 with the in the name of the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, Holy Order of the Unified Sacred House of One. Right after that, we would then say, in the name of the Mashayahana Councils of Aquarian. Right there. In the name of the Mashayahana Councils of Aquarian. And then, the third and the final time we refer to the Mashayahanic councils is in closing. And we close with, in the name of the councils of, in the name of the councils of, in the name of the councils of, Crystal Lake, Crystal River, and Aurora. Before those three, we say, in the name of the Mashayahanic councils of Aquarian, right there, and then go on, councils of Crystal Lake, councils of Crystal River, councils of Aurora. Okay? We all good?
Is that in a different place than where we were doing it before?
Yeah, we were aware that it was coming up in inconsistent places.
So we forget the other ones.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we're aware of that we're clarifying that as we do this, as well as how we should be utilizing the correct council references in the appropriate places too.
So it's different from the latest song?
Yes? Sorry? The very first reference? I wish I'd brought a mylar of this. I could show you. Just give me a second. I'll see if I can find a mylar. I've got it here now. In a couple of minutes, if you're not quite yet.
So we're to forget the other editions from before?
Pardon?
The other editions from before?
No, don't forget anything, darling. Just update the instruction. What we've done, we've been now being told explicitly and clearly exactly what we have to add, exactly what we have to say, and exactly where in the sequence of the entire prayer it has to be done. That is the most up-to-date position the beloveds are given us this afternoon.
Or can you just put it back up for the second one?
Why? What is it you'd like me to do? The second place, where is that? Yeah.
And before we go into the Shadra business, I will just tell you, in case any of you would like to, ruffle through any of your files or notes that you may keep or bring with you, the sequence that we were given for specific use this afternoon. It's also a good boosting sequence that we use at home in this way too. Yeah, I'm going to do that. All right, so I'm not going to tell you what the sequence is anymore. The sequence that the beloveds have asked us to use today, reactivation, and something that we tend to use at home as a combination for boosting, clearing, and such things, is the following sequence. It begins with the Crystal River Para, which is why we spent almost half a day clarifying where we had 3 lines. I know we've got no right to speak about consuming time in irresponsible ways. I know. And then we finish the Crystal River with the usual song, the B2. Then we go on to the Floating Buddha's Rite in this particular sequence. And then we use the Sphere of Destiny, Song of the Ark of the Covenant. And this is, as it were, the first time we've done this combination or used this in this way, but we then use the 12 arrows of Aquarion. And we just use the toning part of that. But of course, if we were in a drumming situation, you could incorporate drums too, if you're inclined to. But that has been given as very much a personal option. And today, if people wanted to tickle a drum a little bit, then it would be perfectly fine. But they're telling us that to just use the vocal toning is more than adequate for our purposes. So that's the sequence that we'll be working with, okay? Now, Shadra time.
Are we going to be getting a paper? Like, are we going to be separate groups with different tones?
No.
Or everybody's going to...
Everyone's doing everything together. Yes, yes, yes.
And are we going to be given a paper with those tones written down, or? No?
Not before we do them.
They're easy to remember. It's not very long.
Well, I'll help you with it.
Do you have them with you?
Can we do that when we get there?
I'll just when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, I will help people with stuff they're not familiar with, and we'll make sure that we can repeat it together correctly. And excuse me, but I'm not being anything but caringly serious, but we didn't get the sequence confirmed until 10 minutes before 3, when I was trying to find out how many were here and we're going to be in the Shadra and how I was going to organize it and do all those things. There just isn't time to do things the nicest way we possibly could. So you just have to bear with us in that regard. All right, Shadra. This is something that I roughed out for the first time we did it at the 12th tribe. And what we're going to do is set up the first 48. So we're calling this circle 1, this circle 2, okay? The extension that comes between the ankles, knees, calves of this person, this person, this person. So there'll be an extension to make circle 3, okay? From the same position between the ankles to knees of this person, there'll be an extension that makes circle 4, okay? So the first 48, as it were, no pun intended at all, we need to set up these 4 circles in this way. This is the usual kind of way that we do it. But I'm just pointing out exactly where circle 3 would run from that point. So they'd be actually literally lying on the north-south axis and the east-west axes, but that's off circle 1. So when we get circle 1 in place first, all right, then we'll bring circle 2 into place in the normal way, and people stay right out on the edges so that the people in the middle trying to get themselves organized can see what they're doing. We'll get number 2 in place. Then I'll ask for the number 3 people to come in and, drop their heads in the usual place between the open legs of these people, right? And then finally, circle 4 will come in and drop in between the legs of the people that are already down on the ground. Finally, Circle 5 will then be asked to come and just create a circle, which you'll just have to organize yourselves as you go along and pay a little bit of attention to spacing. Don't get bunched up in some places and real gappy in other places, and don't finish up on Braden Beach instead of Siesta Key either, yeah? And then finally, Circle 6 will be asked to come in and take up its places. Sometimes, you know, there's some people that haven't actually registered yet. Sometimes people don't actually show on the beach. And we treat Circle 6 as a somewhat moving feast in a little way, because you can't legislate for absolutely every individual being where you need them to be. But this will work, and the Beloveds have confirmed that this plan will, energetically speaking, support exactly what we need to do. So, again, with simplicity in mind, all I've done is, having got the registration list and the most accurate number count I could, and I had less than 10 minutes to deal with this part too, hence the lack of copied paper. The first 12 will just simply go alphabetically. So I'll read out the names of the first 12. The people who make circle number 1 will be... Isn't it interesting how you think you've simplified something that's going to be so easy and quick and smooth, and when you think it's going to be hard and complicated, it isn't. I don't know. So we can kill that now. Thank you. Now it will be time, Jim and Noel. I believe that did you receive the message from Mac that we're only running the live part of the text and not the beach component from Easter? Did you get that all right? Yeah, good, okay. Well then, in your own time, could you run it? Are people in need of a potty or anything before we do this? It's not very long. You do want to? Okay, well, scuttle then. Go as quickly as you can. Get back quickly as you can, because you've got dinner at 5:30 and it's already 4 o'clock. Okay, just quickly then. A brief moment to explain some simple things again. I get that. For people who are as old as me, you would remember a terrific disco song called Ball of Confusion. Ball of Confusion. Circle 1. These are little feet, and those are little heads. Pictographically. I remember this from my lifetime in the caves. And archaeologists have been in touch wanting to know what I meant. So they traced it to me. I started the whole caveman movement, don't you know that? All on my own, without a woman, you know, it's from a rib. Yeah, right. Well, by the way, have you ever tried making love to a rib anyway? More inflexible than a woman can be. Now, so circle 1 is this one, in here. Heads facing the center. Okay? Not too tight, because there'll be 6 people in here, in the middle. All right? You know how we do this. So heads facing in, right? Feet pointing out this way. Ankles spread apart, because eventually a circle will form by a person coming and laying in between this point. But circle 2, using circle 1 as a little blueprint, these guys will come along and they will lay down with their heads pointing inwards, with their head positioned more or less at calf level of the first circle. So that forms circle 2, right? Now, circle 3 then is looking at all of this and goes, I'm a circle 3 person. I'm going to connect with the appropriate parts of a circle 1 person. So circle 3 targets this position here with their feet pointing out like that. And then finally circle 4 comes in, seeing where these guys are. You can see the the wiggly shape that goes on, because this person, circle 3 person, will be in here sticking out. Circle 4 then goes in to these positions, okay, all the way around, so circle 4 forms. Is that clear to everyone now? Yes. Right, now then, once those circles are formed in sequence, and we keep out of everyone's way while circle 1 are doing it, while circle 2 are doing it, then circle 3 people come, and then circle 4 people come. Finally, then the circle 5 will then do their best, heads pointing inwards, to form an enclosing circle all the way around the outside of the final circle 4 people's feet. All right? So that the heads of circle 5 will form, if you like, a perfect circle. And when they have done their thing like that, and they've done their best to make what will represent as a circle, then the circle 6 people can see where they need to be, and they will distribute themselves around the outside edge, heads facing inwards, yep, all the way around the outside of 5, and then we'll be done.
How much distance between the feet of circle 5 and the head of circle 6 would you like? How much?
Not a lot. A couple of feet probably, 1 to 2 feet. So there won't be any moving from the time that we get down in that position, so there isn't any worry about cluttering and being in each other's way and things like that. So anyway, I hope that's clarified it. And now we can go on to the Live Techniques stage. So, there's still quite a little bit of work to do, so if you don't mind, we'll just press right on with this. I don't suppose we should care too much about making it to the beach for sunset, but if we can, it would be a lovely thing to do. Sunset will be around about, just about 8 o'clock, a little bit before maybe. So our schedule is to break for dinner in 25. I don't quite think we'll make it, but soon after that, if we get along now. And then we will see you at the beach this evening and hear more about how Aurora Earth figures in our work this evening, and discover what Ash has been getting about the WAS and what we need to understand about our relationship to those. So then, without more ado, we shall move directly into the Crystal River Prayer. We ready? Okay. Diva Entura.
3 breaths. In the name. And just one round of B2, both verses. We'll go off at a bit of a lick. All right, we'll go quickly, right away. Okay? 1, 2, 3. I think it would be better if I just run this as a repeat after me thing now. We're going into the floating Buddhas, right? And so just take 3 quick Christ-star breaths. Repeat the elemental orb command 3 times. The Ashaya Nira Ochesa. Ashaya Nira Ochesa. We next use the calling command just once to bring in the 6 Shade cloister members who will orb in to their usual positions around you. And so we say just one time through. Azutu ave kumsa evo zata etu kesa are kevo siete ajuna itre tua nuen kusa teva shedra tise hevo. And the raising command follows, which is ista entaro diesu nevaro. Should do it. And now we bilocate the self to become the 7th Buddha with, hold them, the union command, Atu Site and repeat that. So we do 6 altogether. Atu Site Atu. Good. Now the Sphere of Destiny, son of the Ark of the Covenant. Both stands once through. So we do, as in stands 1 once through, we do the first 2 lines once and the second 2 lines 3 times. In stands 2, we do 3 lines once through and 3 lines 3 times through. And they are, after me, 1 time through. Earo te idone epra ile su ejun eta. That's it 1 time. And I'll say this to you, don't follow me, and we do this 3 times. Isan distaro in ishtae. 3 times. Isan distaro in ishtae. Isan distaro in ishtae. Isan distaro in ishtae. Fine. And I'll do the 3 lines, and then we do this once. I'll say it to you first, though, and perhaps we'll handle this 1 line at a time, but I'll do all 3 straight away. Septa ene shua re. Acum saevo etone. Brihem di asalo ajem. That's that. Now there are 3 lines to do 3 times, and they are these. I'll say them to you. Dista enta. Epe sira. Ajune ajune. Dista enta. Epe sira. Ajune ajune. Dista enta. Epe sira. Ajune ajune. And now we move on to the tonal parts, not the drum rhythms sequences, but just the tonal parts of the 12 arrows of Aquarian, the planetary mirror ball drum circle technique as was given. And this is the final stage of what they're having us do in prep for our time together on the beach. So we do 1 round as the following, which I will read to you, and then we will do it once together. Drea Niram, Drea Ze, Sosha Do you want me to read it all to you, or just one line at a time? I'll do it one line at a time then, okay? So I understand how you'd like to do it. Okay, this line will be, we'll start over, okay? Drea nirum drea ze. Sosha ek turon jada tu mu evte. Sosha ek turon jada tu mu evte. That's that one. Next line is Drea mu evte nirum jada tu. Drea mu evte nirum jada tu. And the last line is Drea ek turon sosha ze. Drea ek turon sosha ze. Cool. Now, the next components are, again, a combination of 4. The first one, and we have to do this through, it says here at home. Let's pretend we're at home. We'll do it 3 times through. Okay, the first element is abre onte isawaru. Abre onte isawaru. Second one is eleshaen saetavu. Eleshaen saetavu. The third is dalan tila. Ore humka. Dae shiwa ja entu al lise ha. Perhaps we're not at home. Okay, we'll do it again then. Abre onte is esiwaru. Where are we now? The second one, for the second time. Eleshaen saetavu. Dalantila ore humka. Dae shiwa jaentu aliseha. Is correct. And the final time through, abre onte esiwaru eleshaen saetavu dalantila ore humka dae shiwa jaentu alise. Okay, 12 times through. Ashaya nira ochesa. Ashaya nira ochesa. And one time through the following. This is the one that's in a different sequence than times other. This is the fairy, sieta, kevo, are, kisa, etu, zata. That's the sequence, and we'll do that 3 times through. Okay? Feri, sieta, kevo, are, kisa, etu, zata. Okay. How about we do that together? That was the closest I've ever heard us do to something called punk rock, you know. It just didn't do it for us, you know. So, well, if only one day I will be able to, but I can't do this. What we have to work with are the following. Feri, sieta, kevo, are, kisa, etu, zata. Feri, sieta, kevo, are, kisa, etu, zata. One more time. Feri, sieta, kevo, are, kisa, etu, zata. Brilliant. And now what do they have for us and how many times if we have to do it? Okay. Are you, okay, yeah, 12. 12 of this. So what we're going to do is just simply repeat Abre ita 3 times, but 12 rounds of 3. Okay? We're going to say Abre ita. Abre ita. That's 1 round. So you got it. 3 times is one round, and then we're going 12 of 3. Okay, that's 36 altogether. Got it? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. You're there. Now I just want you to inhale upward from the earth core to pick up in what this technique is doing actually. So would you just take a deep inhale breath up from earth core, up through your feet, into the Azare, hold at the Azare. And at this moment the Asea's elemental orb flows are running up into your Azare from the Asea's reservoir now open in earth core. Exhale firmly upward from the Azare using the breath to push the Asea's elemental orb flow from your Azare upward into Earth's atmosphere. Then resume normal breathing as the Asea's elemental orb flow amplifies the density 1 mirror ball activation within Earth's encryption lattice layers, which sparks the density 1 planetary mirror ball into coronal radiant activation. Take a long, slow inhale breath, using the inhale to draw downward from Earth's atmosphere a personal pillar of pale gold and silver mirror ball light from the planetary mirror ball fields and into your Azare. Hold this breath at the Azare for a moment. And then when you're ready, and this will be a 12-point exhale into your field, sending the mirror ball light from your Azare out through the Alarian chambers to activate your personal density 1 mirror ball coronal fields. Almost concluded. We return, though, to close this with Abrieta another 36 times. 1, 2, 3, go. Abrieta, 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 hey. 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 Woo! Sweet. And finally, the very last thing to do.
You said 36, that wasn't 37.
How many was it then? It was 12 rounds of 3. Are you sure you? It's 48 that I get wrong. I know, just you having a good time, weren't you? That's fine. We're all good. We're all good. We're all good. So we are going to close this. Repeat telling the elemental orb call with the Sade Buddha team elemental calling tone sequence, which goes the way of Ashaya Nira Oche Sa, Feri Si Eta Kevo Are Kisa Etu Zata, which we did a little while ago, except we didn't incorporate the Ashaya Nira Oche Sa. 3 rounds of that. And then we finish with 3 of Ta'eja Intadoe, and then we finished. Okay? So 3 times Ashaya, Nera Oche Sa, Feri, Sieta, Kevo, Are, Kisa, Etu, Zata. Ashaya, Nera Oche Sa, Feri, Sieta, Kevo, Are, Kisa, Etu, Zata. Ashaya, Nera Oche Sa, Feri, Sieta, Kevo, Are, Ta'eja Intadoe. Ta'eja Intadoe. Ta'eja Intadoe. Brilliant. Now I reckon we've got a good fire burning now. Let's see what we can do with it after dinner on the beach. Okay, so enjoy dinner. Coaches should be loading at 7 o'clock pretty much on the dot, so from outside the front of the hotel. Yeah.
Okay, well, tonight's Shadra Shield projection is going to accomplish a few things. Before we go into discussing the shield more, I'll just describe a bit about what they gave me this afternoon in pertaining to this. There's 2 levels of activations that were scheduled to start at other workshops. They're actually going to be compiled with the ones in this workshop. So we're getting an expedited activation set. So it's not just the things we were expecting to be activated during this workshop, but also what would have been on the next 2. And with that, I wanted to show you, by the time we were all done, by the time I had this little bit of compiling information from various graphs from before that they wanted me to do, to be able to show you some of these things, I was hoping to come down and show a few graphs and start from there before we went into this. But there was no time. By the time you guys had got done what you were done, it was the same time I got done writing down the information myself, and it was time to get on buses and that kind of stuff. So it's all right. We can go over those as the beginning of when we start tomorrow evening at 9. But some of the things I would like you to just understand a bit of what we're going to be doing with the Shadra Shield. The first thing that we've known it was going to do was this is the level 3 of the transharmonic time wave activations. It'll activate the mirror ball blend fields that correspond to certain levels, and I'll talk about that. I would have showed that on the graph, but I'll show you that when we do the in-house thing. But the first thing that we have known is that it's going to do the level 3 of the monadic activation, the Mashayahana Amareya Silver Seed, Golden Silver One temple, the crystal temple. So by the end of the Shadra, that will have been accomplished. But there are several other things that are going to happen too. Another thing that was supposed to occur during this one was complementary to some of the mirror ball activations that we began in the last workshop. In the last workshop's mirror ball activation set, we activated what was called mirror ball number 3 and number 5 out of 5 mirror ball fields. And that began a process of bringing the protection fields into the protection fields of the Aurora Earth fields and the blend fields into our density 1 level encryption lattice, and going through all of the correspondences that were on the charts from the last workshop. That means that we began to download the protection frequencies of the transharmonic time wave into our, I believe, our D1 etheric body and our D3 mental body. So our mental body activations and etheric body activations actually started in the last workshop, and they will complete as we complete this Shadra. So what completion of those mirror ball activations means is that from this point forward, there's a complete Metatronic freeze on the D1 etheric body and the D3 mental body. That means in simple terms that with whatever the gene code you're working with, be it, High Christic or Illuminati, it means that on the D3 level, they won't be able to push into your head anymore, your mind, and, from the astral. And wait. Finally, yes. Finally, yes. And what's been interesting is whatever is happening is they're going to talk about what the other, the FA groups are doing. It's really kicked stuff up in the last month, but particularly in the last week. And even though we have been activating the protection field in the D3 level and the D1 level in our bodies, our D2 level is still not protected, and that's our biochemical interface, literally our DNA and our biochemical processes in the body, and they have still been vulnerable until that level of mirror ball activation takes place. Now, that begins in this workshop, and it completes in the Sliders 8, which is in August. So at that point, they cannot push into the physical bodies, where you get that switch, that Jekyll and Hyde effect, where a person's one person at one moment, and then the other thing pushes them out temporarily and gets in and does nasty stuff to their body. So that will block that from actually August, when the Sliders 8, when it completes forward. So we are progressively building the protection fields here. So we will be doing this time, finishing the level 3 and 5, or number 3 and 5 mirror ball activation levels, and we'll be initiating or starting the level 2 and the not level, it's number, they call these numbers, not levels, number 2 and number 4 mirror ball activation. So that will be beginning while we were in Shadra. Now, there's some other interesting things happening in the Shadra shield that weren't going to be done yet. They were going to be done at a future time when certain other sets of gates would need to be opened. And I don't know a lot about the gates yet, but they called them the Gates of Wa, W-H-A. And the group that has to do with these gates, and they interface with Aurora Earth, with our Earth, and with some other things too. I think they're probably going to let us know about within the Aurora Continuum. I have a feeling maybe on the Adore side. But these gates are going to be activated early because of something that's taking place in the planetary grids from the FA group's activities. And because of that, we are getting an early invitation to meet the, what do they call them? We just call them the WAS for short, but it's actually the YAS. They're referred to as the YAS. There are 6 groups of different race lines of the YAS. They are all Adashi masters, or no, they don't like the word masters, adepts. They are all Adashi adepts. Their actual form, it's like what they know themselves as, is conscious air, just like the Ajuna. But they take on gender bodies in order to interact with the gates in various systems and in the Aurora Continuum. So they're out of the 6 groups, and they all have the name Wa at the end. There are 6 groups of them, and 3 of them are female, and 3 of them are male. Now, their consciousness is androsh, so it's not like, or some might be a little more female or a little more male, but their orientation is androsh, and they take on a gender body for the purpose of each gender body has certain specialties and frequency that it can do that the other can't do as well, and it's very equally balanced. The women can do certain things, women's body can do certain things that men's can't, and vice versa. So that's why they take on the gender forms, to be able to run the polarity gates in this system. And so we are going to have an opportunity to meet them. In order to do this, we're going to go on an interesting journey, which they're going to bring the bow ship back in, but they're going to bring it in from under. So it's not going to come down from the sky, it's actually going to come up under the shield. And we're going to use the bow ship that came in and activated the last workshop. It's a plasma ship. It's going to create the field within and around our Shadra that will allow us to go back into Amayasan, where we went in the projection in the last workshop, and that is the control ancient arrow site. And Amaya-san is the one that, hello, hi. Oh boy, we have a permit. Anybody know how to say we have a permit in Morse code? Are they going to land on the beach and harass us? This is interesting. Hi. Good time to cough. That was really bizarre timing. I'm just saying that, yeah, really. I'm just saying the plasma ship isn't going to come down from the sky this time. It's going to come up from under. We can be, anyway. When we project, we're going to do a Jade projection by location through the plasma ship frequencies back into Amaya-san, which is the huge hidden city, one of the huge hidden cities on Aurora Earth that is literally underneath the area that we are in here, and it's centered out on in the area of Myakka Lake, where Myakka River Park is, whatever they call that. That's right up by where they had us by the house, and so it's a huge city, but Aurora Earth city. So we're going to go back there, and it's at that place that we will meet the Shiwas. First we'll meet the Shiwas because they were the ones who introduced themselves first, but we'll meet the Wayas. Sorry, I'm learning them too. When we meet them, they're going to take us through some kind of little identification exercise. And first of all, you've got your Buddhas with you because of the techniques that you did before you came here. So when you go there, you will also receive one of each of the Wayas to go with you, one of each group. And so you'll have the 6 Buddhas, and you'll have 6 of the Wayas to be with you in the journey that we're going to go on from there. But there will be a 7th Wayas that will stay with you, and this one is actually given to you by your Rishi because they have direct commission relationships with your Rishi. Everybody has a Rishi on the Density 5 level, and all of the Rishis have particular service commissions with one of the 6 groups of the Wayas. So there is a home family of Wayas that you will, it will be introduced to you. It'll be one of the 6, and we'll let you know the names of the whole bunch of them. When you go into that part, they'll probably ask, to try to feel for what is the name of the one, what name of the 6 is this one from, the one that will stay with you, and that is the 7th, and that one will stand with you when we start to do, shield projection and configuration. It will stand with you in the center, and you'll have your 6 Buddhas, and the other 6 Wayas will be like 12 around you. All right, so we're each going to fly, that's what each of our bodies where they are here will turn into that configuration. And then there's a couple other things they're going to have us do in general that have to do with activating the Mishayahana Amaraya temple that we were going to do anyway. But then they're going to take us, and they said, we'll tell you when we get there. In other words, they're going to run it live, and I won't see the wave. I'll see it unfold, and I'll narrate as we go. But we are going to go into the reservoirs, into the orb reservoirs that were opened last workshop in the Earth core, and we're going to do some kind of elemental command communion and work with the Asayas elemental orb force that is there, and then we are going to go visit the gushing hole in the center, or not the center, but in the Gulf of Mexico, and we are going to work with them, and they're going to just lead us of how to do this to begin trying to, as they put it, coagulate some of the oil that is coming through there, coming up and out of there, to hopefully help to slow, but not tap, so you don't build up too much pressure and create earthquakes elsewhere, but to slow that and to start stretching it out and stretching out the planetary axiotonal lines, which are the magnetic lines. And then I do believe, I'm not sure if they're going to put that in this journey today or in some of the techniques that will be done after when we start at 9 p.m. tomorrow night and go through into Monday morning. There's going to be another one. I've already seen what they want us to do, and I think they're going to start it tonight and probably amplify it tomorrow. but we're right. I think it's right at the end of the Shadra. They're going to have us come up out of the water around where that pipe is, and it doesn't matter. Like they didn't have us go, Google the location and all of that. We know there's a pipe gushing oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and just aim for that. So we'll get there. We'll come up around it, and come up out of the water, and we're actually going to form both clockwise and counterclockwise spinning vortice around it, and try to start pulling it in, so it stops going towards shores. And what we're going to try to do is also create a protection barrier for starting with Siesta Key and the Grual here, trying to push it back out to sea. And what they're really going to do is try to draw as much of it back in, into open outer water like that, and then start to try to break it up using the elemental orb force to come up and actually try to transmute some of it out of the water. And so they're going to guide us through some of that. I'm not sure how much of that we'll do tonight, but I do believe at the end of the Shadra, they will come with us, and they're going to hang out with us for, till the workshop is over. There's a whole bunch of them, Buddhas and the Wayas and all those, Wayayas, sorry. And I do believe right at the end, when it's time to break up the Shadra, they just want us, we don't have to do it all at once, but because if we'd be making a line from Bradenton all the way down to Naples or whatever, but to stand in the water just for a minute or two, not wet, not go swimming, because we're not allowed to swim at night, but just standing at the water's edge, with the feet, or the waves are, picking up frequency from your feet, and just, breathe a few, Christic breaths out to send more of the orb frequencies, the orb reservoir frequencies out directly. And it's literally going to form an energy barrier, a current, that kind of like a standing wave current, that will try to move some of the currents, the ocean currents, gently enough that if that slick starts moving up this way, it will actually try to push it back in the direction of where they're trying to harness it, which is closer to the source of where it's erupting from. So that is the plan that they have in motion now. And that wasn't something that was originally planned for this workshop, but because of the emergency that is occurring there and continues to spew thousands or millions of gallons a day into the Gulf, it's horrible. So this is our first live intervention posse, really, that we are doing something directly to try to affect in a positive way something, in the natural disaster on the planet. It will be the beginning of our training. And when we get into tomorrow's workshop, we will be doing things with learning about the mirrors and how to use them and how to begin using them for making communication connections in the event that things get really wacky and we can't communicate with each other on 3D. So there's a lot to learn in this workshop, but this is what we're going to do so far. And let me see. Oh, I'll give you the names of the YAS groups. And you'll all have that primary one that works with your Rishi that you are being invited into on a conscious level. Usually there's a whole series of, they call them tests, but they're more like lifetime lessons. And once you go through a certain level of them as a conscious being incarnate, they will then invite you. But at this point, we are all being invited, regardless of what status of lesson we were in relation to our Rishi and those kind of things, because it is in the evac period, and we do have the 200 years so far. But, they need to wake us up, and we do need their assistance. We'll learn more about that when, more about their missions and what they do. But they are one of the highest level intervention teams. So one will be the family of YAS that you are connected to through your Rishi. And in the, as we go through the live wave meditation with the Shadra, just keep that in mind and try to remember when you come out which one. You can work with all of them, but there will be one specific that you have a contract with, actually, because it has a contract with your Rishi self. And the Rishi is part of the identity that you need, that you will eventually integrate all of those frequencies of your own consciousness. There's also something that they just hinted a little bit about with the YAS and working with the Rishi. They can actually help what's called bringing together the four faces of the avatar. And in bringing together the resolute twin set of the avatar, your own avatars, it will actually bring into, full Rishi integration consciousness. And doing that will actually allow you to pull all of the other 20,736 incarnates that you as Rishi have in the space-time fields, regardless of whether they're risen or fallen. You will be able to pull them up and out when, ascension time comes. So it's a very special level of activation, which it literally clears the karma of the others. And so they'll be helping us work toward that. That's all they've told me on it so far. But there's a lot of things, both like in the mass drama, that the YAS will work with us on, but also personal things as well. So let me find the names here of the other YAS. Okay. Trying to keep this low so as not to disturb nesting turtles. This light. Yep. Okay. So the first one that the Mashayahana actually introduced me to them in a meditation about a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. I was hanging out in the Crystal River, the crystal wave, this crystal spiral wave, on the other side of the veil, on that technique that they introduced last time, and I was just hanging there, kind of like for healing, right? And the Mashayahana came up to me and said, "Excuse me, but there's somebody who would like to speak with you." And I'm like, "Do I have to right now? Please, just let me hang here and heal." And they said, "Well, it's kind of important." I said, "Okay, well, if it's important, here we go." So I went with them. Here we go. Where we got please now or what? Headlights. Anyway, they introduced me to them. They said, and they were these really beautiful females. Most of them actually didn't have hair, but some of them did. And they were in various colors, and some of them were that very, very translucent white color where it's like they're not quite fully solid. And they introduced themselves as the Shiva. And I just felt an immediate kinship with the Shiva, like I'd known them forever. And they told me that a couple of people, including my daughter, one of my daughters was actually an incarnate of them. So some people are actually incarnates right now of those groups, but they don't know it or remember, have it unconscious level. And some people are just moving into, being a part of those families. And that's when I met the Shiva, and they've worked with me a little bit, and I had them on like file 13 for a while to make sure they checked out with every council in the Guardian Alliance and every council that I work with, right? Because I always put them all through that. They expect it too, just to make sure there's not some weird group coming in pretending something. So they passed all those tests, and then they said, "Oh, we're all females, by the way. We all take on female body, and we work with people in female bodies only. It doesn't matter if you're a guy consciousness in a girl body. If your body is girl, that you would work with the ones that have the girl gender, right? And same with the boys. They're male ones. They didn't introduce them. I didn't meet any of them yet, but they said, because I'm a girl, and they said the ones in male bodies they're like complements are referred to as the Hewa, and they were the first two. I only thought there were two until coming up to this workshop where they let me know there were 4 others. And so we had the Shivas and the Hewas, and now the ones they have recently introduced that are of those other 4, there's a group of females called the Tewas, and their corresponding male group is called the Iyurwas, E-U-R-W-H-A-S. And then there's another female group called the Sewas, and their complementing male group called the Ilewas. So the Shiwas, Hewas, Tewas, Iyurwas, Sewas, and Ilewas. They are the 6 groups of YAS that, that hold these gates of Wa and all of the things we're going to learn more about tomorrow. So one of those groups will be, now if you are a female in this lifetime, your Rishi will have a contract that's connected with you and with one of the female groups. And it can be any one of them, and they all do different things and have different specializations, and they're all equal. They're all they're all Adashi adepts, and actually are conscious air. They just take on those body forms for specific tasks in relation to the materialized densities. So we've heard the names. Feel them out a little bit when we go into the meditation, and then reach that point where we do the meet and greet where we get visuals on it. Just try to feel which one, because you'll meet 6 first that are the ones that are just going to hang out with you, and then there'll be one more that is one that's working directly with the commission. But try when we reach the 6th first, before the other one, the 7th one that comes and stands with you, is not, and with you, I mean like next to you. It doesn't matter what side, but not inside of you, okay? They're not trying to get in your body or anything like that. But just try to feel out before the fact, which one of those names. If you're a guy, it's going to be one of the ones, the Hewas, or one of the other 2, the Yurwas or the Ilewas. And if you're body, it will be either a Shiva, Tewa, or a Sewa. So just try to feel it out before, and then one of that group will come forward. If you can't feel it out, that's okay. One of the group will come forward and give you the, the imprint. Most people will be able to, will get the information. If for some reason you see, when you feel Chandra, that you feel a bit confused, right? You're like, which why am I? There will be more techniques to refine tomorrow, and you will know by then. And some of them may even say, you're a direct incarnate of us. Like, that would mean that in your last life, whatever that was, the last life closest in time to this one, going backwards, which means in a slower vibration than you had, that would appear as time, time behind you on a timeline. That means you finished the testing cycle and the lesson cycle that goes with these, and they haven't told me a lot about what they are, in that life, and you would have been born as one in this life. And if in this life you're just, finishing the testing cycle, that would mean like in your next life or in this body, if you, transfigure this body, you would be one then. So some people are already directly considered incarnate, incarnate members of them, and some are just being invited back into the family so they can, reestablish that reshape connection of themselves. So, because we've got quite a bit to do, I will get going because we do have a time limit when we have to leave. And let me see if I use a little bit of light. And then I think I'm going to just lay down and let it run because they'll show me it once I close my eyes. But I just have to get, there's like 3 or 4 points they wanted me to look at to remember what we're going to do. Okay, bullshit. Yeah, okay. I'm just reading what they said. Okay, at a certain point, when we go in, once we get into the Boship and go to Amayasan, before we meet the Waz, then the first thing we're going to do is we are going to activate the mirror ball number 2 and number 4 frequency sets and blend fields, and they're what do they call them? The communion planes that go with them. So we will be activating those. Then we will go on to a few other steps in going into the reservoir, and then once we pick up those frequencies of assistance, we will do the the intervention in the Gulf. So we'll start in a second. I just got to get myself laying down here for a second. All right, I'll just try to sit up for this. Is that helping? Okay. we're just turning on the orbicular circulation with the exhale down into the earth core orb reservoir, and then back up to the azure and hold for a moment. And then the 12th point exhale. And the all right, I'll just try to sit up for this. Is that helping? Okay. All right, you didn't miss too much. We didn't get anywhere. Yeah, we're just turning on the orbicular circulation with the exhale down into the earth core orb reservoir, and then back up to the azure and hold for a moment. And then the 12th point exhale. And the orb flow goes out into your field, out into your spirit body, out into your life body, out into circulation. Just breathe gently for a few moments. They're asking each one now to just breathe gently and to think of the first color that comes to mind, or if you see it. There will be a color that flashes, or the name of a color that comes to mind. And it can be any variation. It doesn't have to be just one of the primary 15. But if you can see it, just hang on to the feeling of that color. If you're getting a name of a color instead of seeing it, that's fine. Hang on to the name. Now, with the color, that is the frequency that is opening in your mind's eye. Imagine now that you're going to create a small little crystal of that color, a crystal shaped like the Christ Star vehicle. And in a moment, we are going to, all together, bring that little colored Christ Star vehicle crystal down on an exhale into earth core. And when they all go into the earth core orb reservoir, they will then shoot back up all at once into the plasma ship, because the plasma ship, the bow ship that we raised in the last workshop, is actually hanging out underneath right now in the frequency spaces of Aurora Earth. So when we drop our code crystals, let's just call them code crystals, our little colored Christ stars, down into the reservoir, and they'll pop back up. At that point, when they pop back up, it's going to be a call to the bow ship to rise. And it's going to start to rise, but it'll feel like it's from way down underneath us. Some people will feel this, some people won't. But there'll be like a vibration that's coming up, and it's much, much bigger than just the size of our Chandra, but our Chandra will be centered in the center of it. So it is a plasma ship, and it will come up. It may feel a bit like, almost like the ground goes a bit soft and gelatinous underneath you for a second or two as it's coming up. And it will come up and actually through us and hang. It will be like a big dome over us, but also under us. And that is creating a space in which, a transharmonic space, in which we can fly the shield together into, with a part of the plasma ship, will actually take us back in bilocation into Amayasan, which is east from here. It's up by where that state park is, Mayaka Valley State Park, and up by where we have our house. So they're going to take us into the main access area of the ancient aero control site that is up there that the ship is connected to. So call to mind the color that came to mind, and imagine the form of it as a three-dimensional little Christ Star vehicle. And then inhale upward into your pineal and into the image and hold for a moment. And then on the exhale, push it all the way down the earth core, down into the orb reservoir. Hold at the bottom of the exhale for a moment. And then just breathe normally and easily. And in a moment, they will all trigger in like a little firework burst. They will shoot up into the plasma ship. and call it into awakening. It's kind of an idle part at the moment. All right, they're getting ready. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to just inhale upward into the Azure and hold while it sparks. So when I say go, all right, 1, 2, 3. All right, now. There it goes. And right now, I'm hearing the tones where it's almost like one of those, I forget what it was, Close Encounters movie where you hear, the ship is responding to the tones. You can exhale out horizontally, out your rod. And then you can take one more breath into the Azure and hold. And again, we're going to exhale horizontally, but frontwards to backwards out your chamber. Okay, now just breathe gently, and the vibration is beginning of the plasma ship, which means it's beginning to start its rise. And as it does this, you may notice a sensation that your rod that's sticking out horizontally that would follow your arms and your chamber line that's sticking out front to back, they're starting to vibrate also. And in a moment, they're actually going to, both of them split, where you have part of each one going clockwise and part going counterclockwise. So they form like a spinning set of, one going front back, one going side to side. But they each have a part of themselves that goes clockwise and counterclockwise. So it's going to form almost like what am I visualizing? Kind of like a fan blade around you, right? Where it's activating the interior set of portions of our Merkabah structure that we haven't even talked about yet, per se. So as the plasma ship rises, that's going to go faster and faster and faster. And you're going to feel a bit of an expansion in the size of your Christ-Star vehicle around you. And it may even like pop out really, really far, where you can feel it like go out and touch the water or even further. And just let that be. Also try to sense underneath your body a bit of a gentle rumble that's coming up as the plasma ship is rising. It's not too far from reaching up, where it will press the surface and actually come through the sand and up over us. But its bottom, it's thick enough where its bottom will still be deep down into the mantle. But it's at that point that you may feel a little bit of a sloshing of the sand sensation underneath you, where it's just like, kind of like, a little bit like a waterbed effect, where you're laying on a waterbed. Okay, it's beginning to crest the sand. You may feel the vibration of it running through your body, or your body wants to bounce with it. That's why I'm sitting here and my legs are going crazy. Okay. All right, now that seems to be easing as it's cresting, and it's actually going up now, and it's creating like a, not quite a spherical dome, but more like an oval dome, a large one that spans all across us. Now that we are in register with the bow ship, they're going to have us do something. They're going to tell me in a second that will allow for the shift. We can shift a portion of ourselves. So become aware of, getting ready to bilocate, do bilocation again. If you bilocated in the techniques that you did before in the last one on the plasma ship in general, then you can just put some more of your consciousness